Rooting, or controlling your root, is one of the most important concepts in terms of creating power, stability, balance, and alignment when we're standing on two legs, especially when we're doing the important activity of walking. In this video, I'm going to explain what rooting is and how to consciously control it so you will have more fluidity when you move and be able to reduce impact on your joints. Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Martin with The Walking Code, and thanks for joining me for this deep dive on rooting. Most people have probably heard the idea that we should soften the knees when we're standing up or when we're walking, and most martial artists or athletes have probably heard of the concept of rooting or grounding, which helps to control our balance and our power. All of this has to do with the same concept of rooting. So let me first explain that rooting is going to be controlled primarily by your lower abdominal muscles. They are going to be tucking your pelvis and rotating your pelvis, causing one leg or the other to be connected to the ground. If we stand on one leg, this is where the root is going to be. I have my lower abs tucking the pelvis and rotating towards this right side to help keep my center of gravity tied to this leg and freeing up my other leg. And we can gradually shift the root from one leg to the other until all of my root is removed from the right and now on the left. Before we go into this any further, I want to have you practice with your lower abs and feel what they can do with your spine by tucking the pelvis and then untucking the pelvis. We're going to tuck the pelvis under like a dog tucking its tail, and then untuck it so you have an exaggerated arch in the lower back, and go back and forth, keeping your upper spine in a vertical position while letting the lumbar spine tilt forward and back and the pelvis to tilt forward and back. This is the lower abs that are doing that action on both sides, causing an exaggerated tilt or a negative tilt. When we stand with normal posture, we are only using one side of the lower abs at a time, resulting in a neutral tilt. So when I have my weight on my right leg, I have full activation of the lower abs on the right and nothing on the left, so my lower abs are not causing any tilt on the left. If I switch from right to left, I'm going to gradually release the lower ab activation on the right as I increase the activation on the left until I have all of my weight on the left. So we are not going to use both at the same time. If you find this little balance position here, try to focus on a few different muscles that are activating here. One is using your lower abs, as I mentioned, to tuck the pelvis under and rotate your lumbar spine towards that right leg if you're standing on your right leg. That's going to help keep that root and balance. And we're also using our gluteus medius, which is going to keep our pelvis from tipping over this way. The gluteus medius is going to abduct my hip to pull it up into this stable position. And so I have the lower abs activating in conjunction with my gluteus medius to keep this balanced position. Now practice shifting from one leg to the other and gradually shift the root to the left, release it on the right. Place the toes on the right and then gradually shift the root, feeling the tucking action on the right as you release from the left. It's a gradual change, so when I have 100% here and 0% here, as I go I have like 30% here, 70% here, 50-50, 30-70, and then now 100-0. So it's a gradual shift from one to the other. You can march in place and practice that gradual shift. So we're not just plopping one leg down. We're also not going to change weight by trying to use the upper spine to transfer the center of gravity in that manner. We're using our lower abs to control that change of weight. Then I want you to practice moving around with your weight on one leg, feeling that lower ab action just under your belly button, and see if you can keep the balance. And then we can use our upper waist to move around, control the leg with our hip action, but keeping that lower ab action all on the left leg if we're balancing on the left. If you try to turn your belly button to the right, you'll notice it throws you right off balance because that's taking the root away. And then you can transfer it controlled to the right leg and practice keeping that root controlled on the right with the lower abs, gluteus medius activating. Move around, place your foot in a different position, and then transfer it. There's lots of different ways we can transfer using our hips and our upper waist, but the lower abs are going to have to do the same thing anytime we're transferring weight, meaning they're going to turn towards that leg in order to release the other leg from the ground. We can shift weight while keeping the root on the other leg. So I can shift my spine towards the left while keeping the root on the right. So I am still tucked on the right. Even though my center of gravity is over here on the left, I can still pick up for a second my left leg, but I can't pick up my right leg because that root is tethered to the ground. If you want to transfer that tether from right to left, you'll see the right leg begin to release from the ground as that is happening. Another consequence of proper rooting is going to be controlling our power. We need power if we are walking uphill against gravity. We need power if we're trying to push something. And a lot of that power is going to be coming from our hip muscles, either the hip flexors or our glutes in the back, our hip extensors. Especially when we're trying to push something, we are generally going to be using our hip extensors to push something away from us. Or we're using our hip extensors if we're trying to push the body up and off the ground when we are running. I hear a lot of talk about things like gluteal amnesia, where your hip extensors have somehow forgotten how to work properly or forgotten how to turn on. I don't think these are real concepts. I think they just mean you are not coordinating your core muscles properly for them to work. The muscles are doing what you're trying to tell them, but if you're not doing it properly, they're not going to do the action you think they're going to try to do. And the root is part of that, because the only way we can push off of a leg properly is to first have root on that leg. Let's use the example of a simple push. If I want to push something off of my right leg, I first have to have a root on that right leg. So I am tucking my pelvis, activating it so my right leg is rooted to the ground. Now I can use my glutes in the back to push forward, and I have real power as I am pushing. But if I have deactivated my root, meaning my lower abs are not active here, then if I try to extend from my glutes, that's what's going to happen. My glutes are just going to push the leg up and lock the knee because they're not coordinating with the lower abs. I have to have the lower abs activated for that push to do what it's meant to do. So it's not that your glutes have forgotten how to work or your brain has forgotten how to activate your glutes. Your glutes just can't work without the proper coordination with the other waist muscles. They're still working, they're just doing the wrong thing. I'm pushing as hard as I can, and they just lock the knee out because there's no root. Add the root, and then you get the actual push. Now, the most important application of this concept is going to come when we are walking. When we use our lower abs to root properly when we're walking, we are going to gradually change weight to the new leg after the heel is placed. So we're not falling onto the leg as you might hear some people describe walking as falling from one leg to another. falling implies a sudden landing with impact on the leg that's going to be hitting the ground. But we are not falling onto that leg. We are placing the heel, and then we have a controlled change of the root to that leg, and then we swing through and step forward after that weight change is fully done. So we place, and we can do this in a number of different ways. I'm just going to place my foot here. I'm going to transfer the weight slowly, bringing the forefoot down, and then step forward. Place my foot, transfer the weight. Even if I'm walking in a circle, I'm going to do the same idea. Place the heel, transfer the weight. I'm just going to step around in different ways, and you can practice this too. Step side and back, transfer the weight, step side and forward, transfer the weight. You can walk in any number of different directions, but the principle of the root transferring is going to be the same. So practice that control so you're not falling. Make sure you're not leaning as you do the motions. Your spine should be vertical as you transfer weight. You can practice going backwards with the same idea. As I transfer the weight backwards, my pelvis is tucking backwards, almost pulling myself backwards. I can place backwards, and it's tucking, still relieving that root from the forward leg. Place backwards, I'm taking the root back to the rear leg. Place on the forward leg, transfer the root forward. So you can move around in any number of different directions, but practice the feeling of the lower ab rotating, tucking the pelvis, the gluteus medius helping to support the pelvic tilt when you're on one leg so it doesn't topple over this way. That's the gluteus medius action here. The better you can control that shift of weight, the more you can walk slowly or even walk fast, but you're going to be controlling the weight change with your abdominal muscles, not under the mercy of gravity. One of the final tips I want to give you is to explain the importance of that gradual change of weight, because when we fall forward with gravity without using the action of our lower abs, my knee is going to be in the wrong position relative to my foot. By falling onto it, my knee is over the inside of my foot, which is going to contribute to collapsing of my arch, to increasing stress on the inside of the knee and the inside of the hip, even if I'm walking slowly. When we gradually use our weight transfer using the lower abs to root, that root is going to turn my knee out. So by the time my weight is actually on that forward leg, my knee is in the proper position, lined up directly over the ankle and the foot. And that is more important even than that initial contact that everybody's afraid of, that heel strike. People think that's where the damage is done. But much of the damage from poor walking technique happens because as we are putting that weight onto the leg, we are not putting the knee in the right position relative to the ankle and the foot. That position is critical for the health of the joints. The better you can do that, the better your power, the better your balance, the better your stability, and the lower impact on your joints you're going to have. I hope you enjoyed the video. Click the like button if you got some benefit from this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber so you can see all of my content as it comes out. Have a great day.